Hi, I'm Rebecca Lambert-Smith, the leader of the Not-for-Profits and Charities team here at Moores, and this is my colleague, Yoni, Ungar, an associate in our team. Many of you will have heard about the new DGR reforms that are affecting a certain set of charities that are endorsed to receive tax-deductible gifts. So there's actually 4 categories of tax-deductible gift recipient that are affected. The first is cultural organisations, environmental organisations, harm prevention charities, and overseas aid funds. Now, the changes that have been made will affect these 4 categories in 3 key areas: regulation, administration, and public funds. So let's talk about regulation first.
So under the old system, the registers were controlled by government departments. Applications had to be made to the departments and often took years to be processed and finalised by 2 ministers.
Fortunately, administration and application of these 4 categories of DGR has now been handed to the ATO, and we're delighted to discover that the application process can now be completed in months or even weeks in some cases. The next area of reform affecting these organisations is in relation to administration.
So under the old system, these charities had to submit separate statistical returns to each of the government departments, including specific details about how the donations were used and the amounts received. They also had to supply audited accounts in many circumstances.
The good news is, from now on, these kinds of charities will only need regular charity reporting to the ACNC, so there's no additional reporting obligations. So if you've thought of establishing a tax-deductible gift recipient in one of these 4 areas of the environment, of culture, of overseas aid, or of harm prevention, there really is no better time in terms of ease of establishment and of operation. The third area of DGR reform relates to public funds, and it's particularly important for those existing DGRs in these 4 categories.
So under the old rules, to be registered as a DGR, some of these charities had to operate a public fund, which had very strict and onerous rules. For example, the public fund had to be in a separate bank account and had to be managed by a committee of management with a majority of responsible persons. This was often really difficult for a charity to organise.
Because the ATO has a particular definition of responsible person, and they've got categories of individuals that meet this requirement. It would include lawyers, doctors, school principals, accountants, and that can sometimes make it quite challenging to find the right individuals to sit on these committees.
Following the reforms, charities will have to operate a gift fund instead of a public fund, which has similar characteristics but is a lot less onerous to run.
Importantly, the requirement to have a separate bank account has been abolished, as has the requirement to ensure that the committee of management for that fund is operated only by people who meet the ATO responsible persons test. Now, just because these reforms have been implemented doesn't mean your organisation can necessarily take advantage of this new flexibility straight away. If these requirements, particularly the responsible person requirement and the separate bank account requirement, still exist in your governing document, then your organisation is going to need to make amendments to its governing document, which might be constitution or rules, prior to taking advantage of this new flexibility.
So it's important not to just start relaxing your rules now, but to really check your governing documents to ensure that you're able to make these changes. We're very excited to see these reforms in practice because we really know that it means easier administration, easier regulation, and a more efficient registration process for charities. There is a lot of detail about the new requirements, so please get in touch and we'll be glad to explain them to you.